I don't want to set the world on.
I just played every Fallout game ever made. Every DLC, every spin-off. Here's 10 caps, let's boogie. That one's pretty out there. But nothing was more surprising than one that basically nobody has played. That almost took Fallout in a very different direction. This all started after watching Amazon's Fallout TV show with my girl.
Hello, Mrs. Miller. I'm the pretty girl.
She asked me a very important question. Can ghouls reproduce? My grandpa can't reproduce and he looks like he's like a ghoul. But then she asked me another very important question. What happened in the wasteland before the show? Super mutants, Mr. House, boys of stealth, feral ghouls, water chips, another settlement needs your help. All of the events in the show were preceded by decades of video games, starting with the first Fallout game in 1997. Today, Fallout is a 1950s post-apocalyptic fever dream. But in 1997, Interplay Entertainment had a very different vision for the wasteland.
War never changes.
I've never played the 4 Interplay Fallout games that came before Bethesda's Fallout 3. But I've always heard this thing, you know, Bethesda never understood Fallout. And now I think I understand what that means. The original name was Vault 13, a GURPS post-apocalyptic nuclear role-playing game. That's what happens when you try to let a programmer name the game.
You dork. Go back to the chess club.
The game takes place in 2161, 84 years after the bombs fell in 2077.
It's been 84 years.
You play as the Vault Dweller, one of 3 pre-made characters, and I went with Max Stone, who prior to becoming a Vault Dweller was a Scooby-Doo villain.
Now to see who's really behind all this.
Drake?
Yeah, Drake?
You're tasked by your overseer, who I assume is a Neanderthal. Isn't that pretentious? You watch one Joe Rogan episode, and now you gotta say Neanderthal instead of Neanderthal.
Imagine if you can go back and get like one of them Neanderthal dudes and like enter them into a wrestling tournament.
Your task is to go into the wasteland of Southern California, mostly the greater Los Angeles area, and get a new water chip for Vault 13. Like most computer RPGs at the time, Fallout is played on a turn-based system. But lead programmer Tim Kaine, who you might have seen on YouTube recently discussing his years with Fallout and his other games he's made, created RPG mechanics unique to Fallout that would go on to become the foundation for pretty much every Fallout game to come, with Special allowing you to customize 7 major attributes that would drastically change the way you experience the events in the game, and action points, which I've always thought was like just for VATS. But in Fallout 1, every single move that you make requires action points. You don't have enough action points to use your inventory? Guess I'll just die now. Want to walk? You need action points. Want to run? You need action points.
I don't know what any of this shit is and I'm scared.
Because of this, more so than any Bethesda Fallout game, your skills, traits, and special point choices matter. In Bethesda games, it feels like these things are like just kind of on the side, just to add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of picante.
No spicy.
But in this game, they're life or death. Oh no! What? You also get random encounters just like the other games. Like here, a group of raiders were attacking some peasants, so I decided to intervene. I had to help the peasants, but I didn't realize that their dog being in between me and the raider I was trying to shoot at would be a problem. I shot the dog. So then the peasants started attacking me, and so I killed them. And then I think the raiders got confused because it looked like they started to attack each other. And of course, entire cities, like Shady Sands. Yes, if you've seen the show, it is the same city. But the events with Hank McClane happen around a century after the events of Fallout 1. So this Shady Sands looks more like a Stone Age village. And this is what I was alluding to earlier. All the characters, the towns, the way they talk and what they wear is completely contrast to, let's say, Fallout 4, where you have like almost walking caricatures of vintage stereotypes, who also never cleaned up anything after hundreds of years.
No! Dirty!
But most paramount is that they view the pre-war world as gone. For example, in the Boneyard, which is the remains of downtown Los Angeles, there's this gang called the Blades. As you approach their fort, you can see a pre-war advertisement for Blades razors. Now, if this was a Bethesda game, the whole gang would be dressed up as and speaking like little Dapper Dan clean-shaven boys. Like, yeah, punk. You want to tussle? This whole subject really got me thinking for the rest of my journey. Who had the better vision for what Fallout should have been?
Anyone there yet?
Does this ever happen to you? A disembodied voice trying to get your information from an unknown location? You'd probably say no, but this is happening every day, behind the scenes without you even knowing about it. Whether it's the year 2024 or 2104, people like Kevin are scamming, committing identity theft, and harassing and stalking online. Do you really want Kevin having all of your information at the grasp of his mustache? No? I didn't think so. You'll probably see more of Kevin later. Dealing with this problem yourself is impractical. But Incogni, like incognito, just without the toe, reaches out to data brokers on your behalf requesting your personal data be removed. All you have to do is create an account, grant them the right to work on your behalf like a lord, delegating his peasants to plow the field, and then watch them battle these companies that are holding people's home addresses, phone numbers, emails, social security numbers. Like a couple years ago, someone filed tax returns in my name. Wasn't a fan of that. With Incogni, it's like using an experimental MERV on an Enclave iBot. Use code PLAYER2 with the link below to get a 60% off an annual Incogni plan. You should do that. Fallout 2 might have my favorite plot of the entire series. Take the comparisons that we just made in Fallout 1 and then apply them tenfold in Fallout 2. Releasing just a year later in 1998, Fallout 2 was developed by Black Isle Studios, a division of Interplay, in basically 9 months due to financial difficulties. This would become a much bigger issue for them working on Fallout 3 in the early 2000s, but more on that later. With such a short development cycle, it's pretty amazing what they were able to do with the game. Characters' talking heads seen up close during cutscenes and conversations were animated using 3D clay models and a laser scanner to add them into the game, resulting in these big eyebrowed NPCs. The game teems with references to popular culture, as would Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4. Hence, Frank Horrigan.
You've gotten a lot farther than you should have, but then you haven't met Frank Horrigan either.
One of the main antagonists of Fallout 2, that goes by the same name as Clint Eastwood's character in the Line of Fire. While the mechanics and isometric gameplay are pretty much identical to Fallout 1, it takes place 80 years after the events of its predecessor, in 2241, but in the Bay Area of northern New California. You play as the Chosen One, a Native American.
You didn't take anything out of our tent, did you?
And also the grandchild of the Vault Dweller from Fallout 1, tasked with retrieving a Garden of Eden creation kit, or GECK, to save the village from their worst famine on record. I think these are supposed to be kids, but we really can't know for sure, can we? The beginning of this story is almost completely removed from life before the war. This village has an elder, it's got a shaman, they're talking about gods. You have to go through this whole trial to confirm that you're the Chosen One.
Chosen One! I'm coming!
Like a Sweet 16, but with ants and hand-to-hand combat. I'm on 1 HP. I have to beat this or I have to start over the entire dungeon. Yep. Actually, I think I'm in favor of Sweet 16s having hand-to-hand combat.
Until I'm done with my Lamborghini entrance, no one's allowed it. Make sure they know that, because if they start letting it in, I'm gonna start pissing.
The Vault Dweller is almost looked at like a demigod or a messiah of your tribe. I mean, they're repping his Vault 13 suit at like a worshipping altar or something. Fallout 2 also has lots of cool new things, like bathhouses. A gentleman at the bar told me my mom would be here. And also, I only have 20 caps. Do you guys do Dutch rudders? Hey, also, there's a team right now that's working on bringing Fallout 2 into 3D life in the creation engine. It's called Project Arroyo. So if you're a fan of the original game or you don't ever want to play anything that's isometric, turn-based gameplay, this may be something worth looking into. Not to be confused with Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which we're going to get to. 2001's Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel does share a few similarities with its brother. Both games are not considered canon for various reasons, of which we're going to explore. 2, these games are considered the worst in the franchise for various reasons, of which we're going to explore. And 3, they are both completely out of pocket. I think my dog is gay. Hey, what? In Tactics, you play as a member of the Brotherhood of Steel in the Chicago area in 2197.
And one final thing, ladies.
Y'all will get me 100 Nazi scalps taken from the heads of 100 dead Nazis.
Now, the main reason that Fallout Tactics is considered non-canon is because it tries to overwrite the origin story of the Brotherhood. Instead of being informed by Mariposa military-based personnel and their families, Fallout Tactics states that the Brotherhood originated from a vault, where they learned to protect old world tech. This causes a bunch of interconnected issues. So officially, the Tactics backstory and entire gameplay does not exist. With that understood, you can still enjoy the game. It's missing the open world, as most of the game is on a mission by mission basis, but the turn-based combat mechanics, the interesting NPCs, and the Fallout vibe is still there. I choose the character. We have Metal Gear Solid at home. At times though, it does feel significantly more complicated to play than the other Fallout games. Instead of one character you have to control and worry about their action points for combat, you have several. So you're always thinking about who needs healed, who needs ammo, who needs a back massage and a corn dog. Yo, that actually sounds really, really good. You don't make choices that impact the story as much, but you do have to make decisions that definitely matter, like where to position your recruits and who to give the best weapons to. It never feels like a waste of time. Firefights are won by covering every angle and always having a network of interlocking fire. Though I can't help but wonder, with the popularity of RTS games like Age of Empires and Command & Conquer at this time, and with them clearly not worried about making only the standard Fallout RPG experience, why have none of these companies ever decided to make a Fallout RTS? I'd play it. But after months of lower than expected sales, shortly following the release of Tactics, the planned sequel was canceled by Interplay, striking the downward spiral that was only about to get worse. In the spring of 2004, Interplay graced us with the PS2 and Xbox release of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Probably the weirdest and least played game in the franchise. Well, outside of this next game. I had to learn how to use an emulator to play this game, so I was kind of hoping that it would be worth it. Actually, it really wasn't as complicated as I thought it would be. So long as you drop your downloadable PS2 files into it from the PS2 that you clearly own, you're basically good to go. I'm not lying when I say this game made me feel like I was 10 years old again, playing something like Fable or Conker's Bad Fur Day. The kind of games that my parents bought for me, not really knowing that I'd be doing shit like this. Can't handle a little ooze, huh? Whoa. So that that line is actually pretty wild, even for Fallout. So while it was neither required nor financially sound, I decided to spend every cap that I had on conjugal visits with Ruby, hoping, nay, praying, that if I did it enough times, eventually I'd get a raunchy cutscene. How's the game, son? It's good. Don't come in, I'm peeing. What? In fact, I can vividly remember playing through Fable: The Lost Chapters in 2006, and there's this part where I couldn't figure out how to sleep with Lady Grey. So I went to something we used to use called the family computer and searched for a guide on how to sex Lady Grey. The guide worked.
Ooh, that's nice.
But out of raw prepubescent excitement, I left the page up on the computer downstairs. My parents flipped out. They ran up and took the game like right out of the tray while I was playing. They thought I'd become some like weird deviant because I was trying to have sex in a video game. I'm actually pretty sure this is when we first did the birds and the bees thing.
Could you tell us about the birds and the bees?
Oh, right there. Oh, that's good.
My childhood was so weird. In the first few seconds of the game, I was able to piece together why this, like Tactics, isn't canon. No. Oh God! You have to choose your Brotherhood of Steel character to play as, and one of them was a ghoul, which if you didn't know, the Brotherhood of Steel are not big fans of.
I think you might be a ghoul. Oh no.
Also, this guy is like the first 3D iteration of what they thought ghouls looked like. So he's more of like a run-of-the-mill zombie crackhead than a ghoul. And he runs like a handicapped Naruto. You were separated from your companions and your objective is to find them. But the only person who knows where they are is the mayor. And he'll only help you if you deal with all of his problems around town. One of which happens to be killing 100 rad scorpions in a warehouse and then beating their final boss. Oh my Lanta, which played a wild heavy metal jam throughout. Which is a nostalgic PS2 player I loved, but as a Fallout fan, it kind of felt super out of place. The gameplay overall is just completely different than any of the other games. It's extremely linear with little to no RPG mechanics, but to be fair, this plays exactly like if someone said, make me a top-down action RPG game on the PS2 in 2004. This is like exactly what I would expect. With that said, Interplay had just released Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2 just a couple months prior, and that game is a friggin' masterpiece if you've never played it. So I don't know, I'm not sure what they were thinking with this. All this talk about my gaming childhood really has me kind of wanting to do like a exploring the most obscure PS2 titles that slap, like Goblin Commander or a Maximo Ghost of Glory. Now, the craziest part of Brotherhood of Steel is that there was a decision made to make this game over another game that was simultaneously being developed by Black Isle Studios. And the fallout of this decision changed the future of the franchise forever. Die-hard Fallout fans will be familiar with Van Buren, but probably not its implications. This was going to be Interplay's vision of a massive open world Fallout 3. And it wasn't going to be in the capital wasteland of Washington, D.C. This game would take place in the Southwest and heavily inspire another game years later. While Van Buren never officially released, in 2003, after 6 months of development, the studio created a tech demo to showcase the concept and the art style of the game. And in the vast sea of ancient files on the World Wide Web, I found that demo and downloaded it for myself. Van Buren would have featured the same isometric style as Fallout 1 and 2, but with major upgrades to graphic quality. Bob Ross?
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Freedom of movement and combat systems that flowed more naturally. You were able to pan the camera around the character for all sorts of different angles, and the looting and armor systems were new and improved. Taking place in 2253, just a few years after the events of Fallout 2, you play as a prisoner that could be a human, a ghoul, or a super mutant, which has never really been an option since. And you get to decide whether you're guilty or wrongfully accused of the crime. These decisions when you build your character would affect quests, communities, and skills the player could interact with, which at this point is almost starting to sound like an Elder Scrolls game. The map was going to be massive, spread across Arizona, Colorado, Utah, with visitable locations including Denver and the Grand Canyon. The ending would have been crazy. Check this out. Basically, the player learns that you're carrying a virus.
It only takes one germ, D.
And a mad scientist named Victor tricks you into capturing more prisoners so they can spread the virus as a vector with you as patient zero.
Charlie, are you sick too?
Sick? Nah, Frank's all trying to shave me and shit. I'm like, dude, no way.
Honestly, now my gears are turning. The info on the game doesn't say what kind of virus it is, but I think a storyline revolving around the protagonist carrying the FEV mutant virus and not knowing for most of the game while infecting others would be a pretty interesting plot to see played out. Todd Howard, if you're watching. Also, while you're here, Elder Scrolls 6 win? Now, with as much effort that was put into Van Buren, it was actually being developed alongside the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel game. But Interplay's parent company, Titus Interactive, had Tim Kaine, creator again of the original Fallout, come in and test that demo we just played. And they asked him how long he thought it would take to finish. When he responded with 12 to 18 months, they made the future-altering decision to cancel Project Van Buren and to focus all of their efforts on console releases. Explicitly, the next one they had planned, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. This might be the worst decision of all time, other than maybe eating from the late night menu at Taco Bell. No thanks. I don't feel like repainting my bathroom tomorrow. But I can't help but imagine, what would Fallout look like today if they weren't in such a dire state financially and just made Project Van Buren? Would the isometric Fallout 3 perform as well as the Fallout 3 that we got? Would we have been better off with this version? Because of the poor sales of Brotherhood of Steel, Black Isle Studios was let go. Shortly after that, the planned games of Brotherhood of Steel 2 and Fallout Tactics 2 were both canned, and Interplay eventually dissolved with them. But one last thing they did before that was auction off the rights to make Fallout 3. They had two very interested companies, one of which was Bethesda. In October 2004, Bethesda purchased the rights to develop Fallout 3 from Interplay for a little over
$1 million.
with the intent of making their first Fallout game unique, and that they did.
Morning, Jonas. Morning, Doc. How's things?
If you saw my last video on playing every Elder Scrolls game ever made, spent the entire night eating pizza and killing everybody in town. and taking all their clothes because it made us feel funny. Buren was the first open world RPG that I can remember playing, but Fallout 3 was the first one I actually beat, except for the DLCs. My parents wouldn't buy them because we already bought you the game. Why do you need more game? And with that said, even the base game took me a while to complete. 2008 retrospectively is like one of the best years in gaming. Grand Theft Auto 4, Nazi Zombies, Gears 2, Dead Space, Left 4 Dead, bro. I had a lot on my plate. Plus I had to maintain my solid 2.8 GPA. But up to this point, I hadn't played anything like Fallout 3. Where are all the other options? It's 2024, so this triggers me.
You're going to look a lot like your dad.
No, I'm not. You're white, you liar. He changed! Fun fact, Todd Howard's 1-year-old son did the voice lines for you as a baby during this scene.
You're only 10 once, so have fun.
Thanks, Black Liam Neeson. There's some people that don't like it, but the opening sequence to Fallout 3 is one of the best introductions I've ever seen in a video game. You basically get to experience all the pivotal moments of your life growing up in a vault, something that till now we had never seen in these games before, all while the game subtly interweaves building your character. Agility? Yes. Because of the freedom of choice and the deep connection to the plot you get in the first few minutes, when your dad escapes the vault and you have to chase after him, it makes for, in my opinion, the best step out moment for any Bethesda game. If you're unfamiliar, that staple moment in their titles, where you've chosen your character build, completed the underlying tutorial, and step out into the open world for the first time. In Fallout 3, the vault door opens, and after the white flash of experiencing natural sunlight for the first time, you slowly regain your vision, revealing the desolate post-nuclear capital wasteland. I remember seeing that for the first time and it was just so cool. At first glance, you'd assume that this is just a futuristic world lost to the apocalypse. But unlike Interplay's Fallout games, all is not lost. The characters and style of Fallout 3 reflect a wasteland that's trying to recapture life before the bombs fell. But does that have to be a bad thing? There's post-apocalyptic movies, TV shows, other video games, but there is nothing with the style and retro-futuristic feeling of Fallout. In 2008, this game was unbelievably immersive for me. Technically, you gotta go find your dad, but after you discover your first Fallout radio station, the game almost begs you not to.
Each morning, a missionary advertises with neon sign.
On a simple quest to go from point A to point B, you'll encounter C, D, E, and I mean, whatever letter this is. Are you okay? And Bethesda did have the intention to expand on the importance of your choices, something that people loved from the original games. Fallout 3 was where they introduced the karma system for the first time. Bethesda did this to make the players ponder whether they made the right choice immediately. Like when Lucas Sims catches you trying to arm the bomb at Megaton.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Talking. Me? Just hanging around.
This game has one of the most memorable and heartfelt storylines of the entire series, but the DLCs were crazy, and I haven't played any of them. So for each DLC section that we do, I've decided I'm just gonna quickly run through them for the first time, saving my favorite for last. In 2009, the year after Fallout 3's release, Bethesda launched 5 DLCs, the most for any single-player Fallout title to date. The first one was Operation Anchorage, where I helped some Brotherhood outcasts open an armory by hopping into a simulation of a pre-Great War battle in Alaska between the Americans and the Chinese. A plot that felt somewhat familiar.
Where am I? You're inside the Animus.
Next, I tried Broken Steel, an alternate ending to Fallout 3, where you awake a couple of weeks after the Purifier is activated and get to help the Brotherhood battle the remaining Enclave using the Iron Giant. At the end, you have to make a decision whether to destroy the Enclave base or the Citadel. I chose the Citadel, because sometimes I be evil like that. The third DLC, Point Lookout, is the largest edition, implementing not just a new storyline like the rest, but an entire new map to explore. I think it's actually about a fifth the size of Fallout 3, and with new enemies called Swamp Folk. Basically, they're just a bunch of inbred hillbillies. Why they didn't make it into Fallout 76 in the West Virginia wasteland? Beyond me. Mothership Zeta is the 4th expansion and takes you aboard an alien spacecraft. To escape, you have to work with a young girl who was abducted before the Great War and other allies from several different periods of history, including Toshiro Kago, who, unless I'm mistaken, is actually the oldest character in Fallout, as he would have clearly been abducted from feudal Japan, which had to be at least 700 years ago. Then finally, my personal favorite DLC from Fallout 3, The Pit. He said all I gotta do is get past it. Dude, this is so beautiful. But all right. I may be a little biased. My dad's whole family is from Pittsburgh, and I'm a lifelong Steelers, Pirates, Penguins fan, so there is that. While not as big and explorable as Point Lookout, the storyline was insane. So you respond to a broadcast from Werner, who's probably one of the most bugged characters that I encountered. What you shooting at, dude? She's dead. It says we gotta go that way. Who has the key?
We've got to keep moving. There's no time.
Duh! That's what I'm trying to do. You're literally walking, you weren't moving. He disguises you as a slave to infiltrate the city of Pittsburgh, as the entire city has become a massive steel manufacturing operation ran by slaves and controlled by Lord Asher, a former Brotherhood soldier, who has discovered a cure for the scourge of radiation that's been turning everybody into creatures known as frogs. Trogs. Not frogs. Like they're all hopping around, ribbiting and like eating people. Anyways, the cure turns out to be Asher's baby. And that's when I had to make the craziest story choice that I've ever made. So my two choices are leave Maria asleep in her crib or pick up the baby and kidnap her. Well, I guess there's only one right choice. So I ran past an entire city of raiders to take the baby back to Werner for the cure. But remember when I said he was one of the most bugged NPCs? For whatever reason, he was pissed. He started shooting at me, so I killed him. And then my objective immediately changed to take the baby back. So I ran all the way back to return it to Asher. And he basically gave me a pee-pee slap and said, don't do it again. And that was it. This is a prime example of the absurdity of Bethesda's Fallout games. Fallout 3 ended up becoming the highest selling title Bethesda had released up to this point. So they recruited Obsidian Entertainment with several devs that worked on the original Fallout games to develop what, in my personal opinion, and in the general consensus, is the best Fallout game ever made. My parents, like many 90s kids, were divorced. And in 2010, I moved in with my dad. One of the first things that he did was come into my room and he showed me 3 games he was getting me for Christmas: Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Call of Duty Black Ops, and Fallout New Vegas. He let me pick one that I could play that night and not have to wait all the way till Christmas. I chose New Vegas, and when I started it up, I was so glad I did.
Why don't you walk down to the end of the room, over by that vigor tester machine there?
Playing through New Vegas took me back to a simpler time, where my only goal in life was to have a higher achievement score than my douchebag neighbor with a bowl cut Connor. The time of the Xbox 360, Club Penguin, Habbo Hotel, and pixelated selfies on MySpace. Look at him. Look at this idiot. New Vegas was just everything that I wanted a Fallout game to be. It was like a beautiful mix of what Interplay and Bethesda's visions were for the wasteland. And there's a good reason why. After Black Isle Studios, who worked on Fallout 2, went under, many of those devs went on to create Obsidian. And the project director for New Vegas, Josh Sawyer, was working on Van Buren, Fallout 3, before it got canceled. So many of these devs still really wanted to make a Fallout game, and now they were finally given their chance to do so, utilizing Bethesda's Gamebryo engine from Fallout 3. Set in the year 2281, New Vegas takes place in the Mojave Desert.
To the town of our free rode a stranger one fine day.
Similar to Fallout 2, you don't begin in a vault, but instead as a common wasteland courier who's shot in the head by this guy while trying to deliver a platinum poker chip. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. While trying to track the chip back down, you run into several different factions, including my favorite, Kaisar's Legion, because their leader reflects how all of us feel every now and again.
This. I'm going to lie down.
I respect that statement. These factions were designed purposefully in a way to give each of them moral ambiguity. Specifically, in their own words, they didn't want any one faction to be Jesus or Hitler, because life isn't that simple, even though that's kind of how American politics are today. And so not just at your final decision of who to side with at the end of the game, but throughout, you're put into situations where you have to make a choice and there is no right answer. This game had a world record at the time for the most NPC voice lines, which was an insane 65,000. There's just so many choices and ways to play the game. Like if you want, you could just kill everyone. You could kill every single NPC in the game. The quest givers, the main characters,
sorry, Sonny.
Your companions, some of them won't even do anything. They'll just like soullessly stare at you, accepting their fate.
Bonk, 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 bonk.
These NPCs are probably my favorite in the series, except for this guy with one line that I've never, for the life of me, been able to get out of my head after I tried to platinum New Vegas on PlayStation a while back.
Talk to me.
I'm occupied at the moment.
Get the, no, you're not. Oh. I see what's going on here. You keep the helmet on when you f the chief? I don't, okay.
I'm occupied at the moment. Come see me when I'm on the...
Sleeping in random beds? Go to the balcony then. What the f is going on? What are you doing? Go to the balcony.
I'm occupied at the moment. Come see me when I'm on the balcony.
Guys, I'm about to lose my shit. I just need to complete these last few missions. Go to the balcony. Go to the balcony. We're gonna wait. Oh my God. What? We're on the balcony.
Back west, you don't see too many of these.
I beat this game several times, like more than Fallout 3 and 4. But again, I never played the DLCs. So I gotta be honest, I was just itching to start those up. The first one I tried was Dead Money. It's a pretty difficult DLC, and I really was just scared the whole time. Honest Hearts took me on a journey to the Zion National Park in the middle of a war between tribes, forcing me to determine the fate of Zion. Now, Dead Money scared me, but this dude right here is like the scariest NPC in a game.
God willing, you will not leave this valley.
Lonesome Road was just fantastic, as it wraps up the story of the original courier that had the platinum chip before you picked it up. In a transmission, he promises to answer why, but only if you head to the Divide, which is basically a hellscape of storms and earthquakes. Now, my favorite DLC of New Vegas is Old World Blues, hands down, because it encapsulates the absurdity of Fallout so well.
I am online once again!
Bro, you got way too much anger for a toaster.
Basically, you become a human experiment and you have to fight this bad guy, Dr. Mobius, and the entire thing is just joy. And also, I'm not much of an internet guy. Now, I know that's weird, like I'm a YouTuber and whatever, but I'm not a negative dude. I know there's a population of individuals that really, really don't like Fallout 4. And having just now played all of the other games in the series, I can understand why. I can respect it. After everything Obsidian just did with New Vegas, Bethesda followed it up with clearly much less. But Fallout 4 had something, technically a few things, that they just did better.
Oh my God!
Oh,
It's obvious to me that negativity and anonymous internet users just wanting to hate everything has been ramping up over the last couple of years. Like, you're not allowed to like anything.
Games are bigger than ever, longer than ever, more broken than ever, and worst of all, less fun than ever.
Every game release sucks, every movie sucks, and while we're at it, you suck, and your mom smells like hot dog water.
Oh my God, these are smoky boys.
But it's almost like there's this incessant need to just shit on things, to fuel your own self-loathing and misery. But dudes and dudettes, I just want to play games and enjoy them. And you know what? I enjoyed Fallout 4. It's a good game. When it released in 2015, I was on an op with my buddies at Assaultcraft Unit 1, and I brought my Xbox along with Fallout 4. We took turns playing it and beat it probably within the first few nights. I was originally going to blur out my buddy Gonzo's name tape, but fuck it. He's recently been trying to make it in the country music scene in Nashville. He goes by Rudy G, so I'm gonna leave a link to his content in the description below. Now fast forward to today, and as I said in the beginning, me and my girl just watched the show. She loved it so much that she was like, I want to play Fallout now. Which one should I play? Immediately I said Fallout 4. She's not like a gamer girl. Maybe a bit of Fall Guys here and there, but that's about it. And I think there's many just like her that maybe after watching the show want to try Fallout games for the first time. What do we tell them? Go play Fallout 2? Yeah, pop that on and tell my girl to play that. Dude, I'm missing every time. No, let me say it again in Spanish because she's Puerto Rican. No. Sure, they kind of dumbed down the RPG experience, and there's some questing characters that are just like, why? In one, a cat runs away and you just have to go find it while you're supposed to be looking for your son. Fallout 4 takes place in 2287 in the Commonwealth of the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Boston. Unlike the previous two games that were developed on the Gamebryo, Fallout 4 used Skyrim's creation engine, resulting in better visuals, character design, as well as gameplay. You can say a lot of things about this game, but you cannot say that it does not have the best combat in the series. It's more accessible and it's just overall more fun. But most importantly, Fallout 4 showcases the secret ingredient for what makes Bethesda games playable 10 years later. Why a single player game released in 2015 still has thousands of players. The mod community. As much as I like the vanilla Fallout experience, with the sole survivor choosing the fate of the people of the Commonwealth while trying to find his son Sean. Modders have always come in to make these games way better, not just with visual overhauls and performance fixes, but new characters, locations, and entire storylines. It makes this game a blank canvas for endless possibilities, like playing through as Woody from Toy Story.
Basically, we have Sheriff Woody here.
The latest and probably best example of this is Fallout London. This isn't some small addition. This might as well be its own Fallout title. The devs that created this, for free by the way, went all out, building their vision of a post-apocalyptic London. While, of course, it's not canon yet, from what I've seen, this experience is bigger and packed with more content than any of Bethesda's official DLCs. Without dedicated fans like this, and with the tools that were given to them, there's no question Fallout would not be where it's at today. But speaking of DLCs, again, I haven't played any of them. Oh, and I just played Fallout Shelter for the first time last night. Playing as a vault overseer, simulating the experience of managing and constructing your own vault, is actually a really fun do when you're dining at the Outback Steakhouse with your in-laws waiting for the bloomin' onion to come out. I just couldn't justify adding an entire section to this video for it. The first Fallout 4 DLC is Automatron. I actually bought this DLC back in 2016, but then I went on deployment and completely forgot about it. Basically, you have to take on a horde of evil robots, including the Robo-Brain, hunting them down and using their parts to build and mod your own custom robot companions. It created a completely new game mechanic that I kind of hope they build on in future titles. Then I tried Nuka World, the pre-war Six Flags-like amusement park that is now a city of raiders. And getting to lead a gang of raiders to conquer settlements is something that I just didn't know I needed in my life. But Fahaba was my favorite of the Fallout 4 DLCs. Fahaba is just a little bit shorter than Nuka World, but anybody that's played it would agree that the experience is so much better. The factions and choices actually felt deeper and more meaningful than the base game. Even though Fallout 76 launched in 2018, being the latest game in the series, according to our official Fallout timeline, which is clearly legit, it has the word official in it, Fallout 76 falls at the very beginning, starting in 2102, just 25 years after the Great War, in the wild and wonderful state of West Virginia. Honey, I asked for 2 slices of bacon. Oh wait, this is West Virginia. Sister, cousin, wife, I said I needed 2 pieces of hog ass. Surprisingly, the devs didn't change much. It's basically already a wasteland filled with chem-addicted ghouls and shitty roads. I'm from West Virginia, so I'm allowed to say that. You would call it terrifying. We just call it Huntington. Fallout 76 begins with Reclamation Day, where the inhabitants of Vault 76 are sent out onto a post-apocalyptic West Virginia. Now, mind you, I haven't played since 2018. In fact, the first video that I ever made was just me getting mad that I kept getting disconnected from the server. But over 6 years of trial and error, mostly error, like Fallout First, where you can pay monthly for features that should have been in the game that you already paid for, or Nuclear Winter, Fallout's much needed Battle Royale mode. It took them a while to realize what Fallout 76 really needed. And when I stepped out of the vault this time, I think I found it. What's up, dude?
That's all.
After several updates, they've added a main storyline and random NPCs and encounters scattered all over the map. But even so, it is multiplayer, and that is always going to be the best way to play this.
Uncle Hugo, down the hall. Toodaloo.
I didn't hear a word she just said. I'm just sitting here staring at you, dude.
This is Commander Shepard. He had over 1,000 hours in Fallout 76. What does 1,000 hours look like in Fallout 76, you ask?
Is this your wife?
She's my waifu. My sexy ass Assaultron.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Walking Roomba wife is pretty cool, but there had to be more. So we went on the latest adventure added to 76, Skyline Valley. Our journey began with commanding overseer Hugo Stieglitz. If you don't get the reference, we can't be friends. Hugo wants us to take care of the weather problem they've been having. To do so, we had to get a spare part for the weather machine from Scoutmaster Kevin, who seemed harmless enough, just probably wouldn't let him near your kids. To get it from him, we had to clear out some hippies with courtesy and kindness, or with a quad barrel 50 caliber heavy machine gun. Guys, democracy! Kevin, I just want you to know that if I had been given the choice, I would have gladly sacrificed you to the hippies. And so the question still remains. Did Interplay or Bethesda have a better vision for the Fallout wasteland? For me, there's so much craziness going on right now. Every day there's something new, and it's completely detrimental to our health. So I'm just gonna play games, man. If you can vibe with that and want to join me in exploring some of the best game series of all time, consider subscribing. I just played every Elder Scrolls game ever made here. Ooh, including one on a strange device that I think's from the past. It's like a mini laptop or something.